Hello fellow YouTubers, in this video I'm going to be doing a review of this NEX5 camera. Now I know this is not a new product, however it's currently going on sale at quite a few retailers, and I thought you might be interested to have a look. What does this camera offer, and is it really that out of date? Now in this particular kit we have a 16mm f2.8 lens, which is wide lens, decent for parties indoors and all that, and it's a pancake lens, very small and compact and light. You also have a flash unit which attaches to the proprietary shoe, and the camera has an E-mount, and most importantly has APS-C sensor, which really opens you a load of possibilities. Being a huge sensor, you have nice depth of field, nice low light performance and such. Anyway, let's move along. You also have a 14.2 megapixel sensor and a full HD 1080 recording. Now here it says 1080 because at the time firmware release was only for 1080i at 60 or 50 frames per second, but currently it's progressive scan, so it's 1080p at 25 or 30 frames per second, which is pretty modern. And here I have some extra warranty, which I don't know if it's still valid because this is not a brand new product as such, and it's silver in color. And yeah, that's about it. Last thing, I suppose the ISO ranges from 200 to 12,800. It has a 3-inch LCD, and it's non-touch, and it has 960,000 dots, which is a very vivid display. And very important, it has a HDMI, and with HDMI it can output to your monitor or screen TV, whatever you're using, while you're recording or shooting pictures. It wouldn't output 1080p, however you would still see it clearly on your monitor while recording, and that's a huge advantage. And if I'm not mistaken, NEX3N model, which is the current replacement in terms of the capabilities, wouldn't have that. Okay, and so that's about it. Next I'm going to show you what's inside of the box. Okay, let's get started. First we have a USB, we have a mini USB. This is an old type, you can call it, because there's a micro USB at the moment out. However, this is more robust kind of method of connecting the camera, and I do prefer to see that, which is nice. Also have a flash unit, pretty small and compact, and as I mentioned before, it attaches using proprietary ports, so you basically plug it in and screw this onto the camera to secure it. I'm not a big fan of that, however Sony did address that in the later cameras, and you can see the Hot Shoe Plus proprietary port. This is a shoulder or neck or whatever strap. Also have a bunch of information booklets in different languages and whatnot, and how to get started, what to buy as an additional extras, manual, and a CD with a software, because your computer would not be able to recognize RAW format right out of the box, so you might need that software because the camera does shoot RAW. And this is the power plug cable, and this is the charging station itself. I do prefer that over some of the Sony models where the charging is done straight to the camera. Just my own preference. It's up to you guys once again. And there's a lithium-ion battery of, let's see, the model is NP-FW50, and we have 1080 milliampere hour. So not too big, not too heavy, but still it's there nonetheless. And that's the camera. Now, one big advantage of the camera for me and for most of you guys shooting should be the mount. And that means that you can basically mount any lenses you want that are there on the market, including the old lenses like this Canon lens from 70s. Yep, that's right, it's from 70s. Using this FD to NEX mount, which can be bought on eBay for around $10 or €10, you can attach it to the lens and use that lens. Obviously everything would be manual, but everything would be very nice and shallow. So in case you prefer, if you don't want to spend much, you can invest into the cheaper adapter and the cheaper lens, which is CCTV lens, also known as C-mount lens. And this still looks good on NEX. I can confirm that they do work on NEX. Some people say that is a huge vignetting, but it's not too bad. Back to the camera, there's an on-off button here, or switch should I say, playback button, shutter button, recording of the video. There's your microphone right and left, or left and right. Proprietary port here, which I talked about. As you see, there's no hot shoe, which is a bit of a disappointment, but I suppose you can walk around that. Big advantage over the NEX 3N, which is currently on the market, and very similar price tag. It doesn't have this kind of bulky bit here. So basically, once you have a lens, something like that, or whatever bigger lens you choose, it's nice to have this grip. You would know what I mean if you have used something like that before. If you haven't, once you get it, you will understand that this is actually a nice feature to have. Obviously, I suppose there are different grips, like a leather straps you can buy for the camera, but as it comes, it's nice to have this bulky bit here. Now on this side, we have a USB, as mentioned before, and we have a micro HDMI. Once again, not a huge fan of these fine little connections, because they're a bit flimsy and they're not as robust as the bigger ones, but it's still there. And as I mentioned, HDMI live out is an option and it works fine. Also tripod mount on this side of the camera, so you do have an access to your battery and SD or Sony memory stick if you have one. And here there's a little door, so if you buy an additional accessory, you can run it straight from the mains, so you don't need to use your batteries. On this side, there's not much. The grip itself is plastic, it's not rubberized, unfortunately. There is a little rubberized kind of grip thingy here. Looks like artificial leather. Number of buttons and a dial. Some of the buttons are customizable, and the true black display, which is, sorry, 921,000 dots, not 960,000. But anyway, close enough. So next, I'm going to put a battery in and I'm going to power the camera on. And there we go. Obviously, be nice to remove the cap. By the way, while I'm there, this is what the lens look like from the front. So very small, tiny lens. However, it does perform quite well and it's quite sharp lens. So some information here. Display button obviously might reveal more, and you have the sound kind of coming out as standard. You have shooting tips, which is very nice for the beginners. You can go through them if you like. In terms of the menu, shooting modes, we have fully automatic program, aperture priority, shutter priority, fully manual with RAW capability for those advanced shooters out there. 3D panorama, which has options of, let's see. Okay, I think we have to go in the menus and then change the direction, but anyway, directions up and down, left and right. Same for panorama there, anti-motion blur, so when shooting in low light handheld. And we have picture effect, and we have tons of scenes, obviously. So once again, these are the scenes. Plenty there for any liking. I usually would switch into manual and go from there. Another thing why manual is good, because manual actually allows you to take more controls of the camera. Now let's see. Camera, drive mode, different modes there. So you have single shot, remote, bracketing, timers, different priorities and things like that. Not gonna go into that in detail. Have autofocus. I think that's autofocus with some after touch controls, if you can call it that way. And here we have manual focus. So if you switch to manual focus, these options go away and other would open, but in autofocus you can select obviously different ways to focus. And there's standard dial, so you can control the shutter speed and aperture. Okay, back to camera. Autofocus mode, so single or continuous, depends what you like. Digital zoom, face detection, smile, panorama, shooting tips, contents and stuff like that. Image size, we have these sizes. Now these are only in shooting JPEG. If you are shooting RAW, they won't be available, but you can crop later. Aspect ratio, pretty standard. And then once again we have RAW and JPEG, fine and standard JPEG. So if you switch to RAW, image size, as you see on top, disappears. As I mentioned, you can still crop it to 16:9 if you want. AVC HD movie recording, pretty nice. However, only one option there. You can select different, and that's 1080p at 25 or 30 frames per second, depending on where you are. And you also have MP4 with 1440 by 1080 and a VGA for YouTube clips. In terms of brightness color, you have the ISO, which you can set from 200 as mentioned, 12,800. You have white balance, metering modes, HDR, creative styles, where you can basically set, if you have standard style, you can reduce the contrast, reduce the saturation and sharpness, and do it in post if you prefer. This is recommended, however, not all of you might like that. And playback, once again, some options here for 3D viewing and such. And in setup, there's very little options, however, they're all relevant. So AF illumination, so that's basically a little light on front that illuminates your image. Sorry for my belly noises. That's the light over there. And you have also infrared receiver here when you're taking pictures with remote. And by the way, remote wise, there's plenty of aftermarket remotes which are very, very cheap. Okay, auto review, grid line, peaking levels, that's when you have in manual mode, which is very nice. Histogram, manual focus assist, color space, sRGB or dope RGB, steady shot. Now if you are shooting with different lens, make sure this option is enabled. Otherwise, when you put another lens on, camera won't be allowing you to shoot with it. Actually, I'm going to show you right now. So if I disable that option and remove the lens, revealing the sensor. Now guys, be very careful. Make sure you're working in a dust-free environment, because these sensors, just like any other sensors I suppose, do not like dust. Okay, and there I have the lens. Strangely enough, let's see. Okay, maybe because I don't have a card. Ah, there we go. Cannot recognize lens attached properly. It's no problem with lens. However, it doesn't have any electronics on it, so you have to enable this, and then no problem at all. As you see, I can focus and everything on the lens, obviously. Anyway, actually I'm gonna remove this lens because I'm not gonna be using it now, and the camera does gain some weight using that particular lens. So I'm gonna put this nice and light lens. As you see, lens change is very fast, pain-free. Long exposure noise reduction, high ISO noise reduction, movie audio recording, pretty standard features. It's autofocus, micro adjustments. You can change some things there, and obviously you can change soft keys and stuff like that, so some custom keys. And once again, date, area, power, save, display color, and things like that. By the way, the version I'm currently using is the latest, which is version 5, and that's pretty much it, guys. Last but not least, I suppose I can show you there. This is the tilt screen that they give you. So if you're shooting from the waist, this is the way to shoot, and if you're shooting from holding the camera above yourself, that would be the way to shoot. Unfortunately, the camera doesn't flip the screen sides, sideways, so it is a bit disappointing there. Now, being Sony obviously has lots of quirky little things like this proprietary mount and screen that doesn't flip properly, and well, I don't know, actually they did fix some of the mistakes there. Now, I do like this camera. My biggest disappointment, however, is that this particular model does not allow any manual controls in video, and that's really bad, because if you don't have control over lighting or anything like that, you might run into difficulties, and more than likely that you will run in the future. Now, if you're shooting with standard Sony lenses and things like that, might be okay. When you're shooting with manual lenses, you might want more control over your video especially, and that's where this camera would not excel. Same with the 3N, by the way. The only camera where the manual controls come to play in the video will be 5N, and later 5R will be doing the same. NEX6 is a very nice model where here you would have a viewfinder. It would be electronic viewfinder, of course, but you still have one. And if I'm not mistaken, it has a hot shoe, which is really nice addition. Now, if not for a couple things, I would actually suggest you to look into NEX3N. However, because of this bit here that allows you to grip camera better, and because of uncertainty over HDMI ports, I don't think NEX3N allows you to output live HDMI. So for these reasons alone, I would recommend you this camera. So yeah, that pretty much covers it actually, guys. I won't be providing any samples, sorry about that. I simply won't have time to do that because I won't be keeping this camera for long. But anyway, I hope you liked the review. Well, the quick unboxing, I should say, more than review. If you liked it, click the like button and subscribe. And if you have any comments, leave them at the comment section down below. And as always, have a nice day.